Alex and Jamie weren't planning to look at more houses that weekend. They'd seen too many modern, bland, overpriced. But the listing for a weathered old home just outside town stood out. No fancy photos, no buzzwords, just the realtor's words, "First showing in 10 years, not for everyone." That intrigued them more than anything else. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. They drove out on a cloudy Sunday afternoon. As they turned off the main road, gravel crunched under their tires. The house came into view slowly, nestled beneath tall trees. The paint was faded. The garden was a bit wild, but it had character more than any new build. Jamie leaned forward. "It looks like it's been waiting." The porch steps creaked beneath their feet. A woman in her 60s opened the door with a gentle smile. "You must be Alex and Jamie. I'm Carol." She stepped aside, holding the door open. "Come in. Take your time." Then, as they crossed the threshold, she added, "You're the first to walk through this place in 10 years. That made them stop in their tracks. Jamie turned. "Wait, really? No one?" Carol nodded. "No one. Not a single viewing. The owners weren't ready. It just recently changed." Her voice was calm, her eyes kind, but something about the way she said it felt meaningful. Alex looked around, taking in the stillness of the entryway. The air inside was cool and smelled faintly of wood and old books. Nothing felt staged. It wasn't cleaned to perfection, but it wasn't abandoned either. A hallway stretched ahead, ending in soft light. To the left, a living room with vintage furniture and a fireplace. To the right, a staircase with worn steps and a slow creak. They wandered the main floor. The kitchen was small, with handmade curtains and a deep ceramic sink. Wooden cupboards showed decades of use. A faded photo was pinned to a corkboard someone's cat sleeping in a patch of sun. "It doesn't feel empty," Jamie said quietly. "It feels paused." Alex nodded. "Like someone just stepped out." Upstairs, the bedrooms were cozy and simple. One had pale yellow walls and a narrow bookshelf filled with old paperbacks. The other had wallpaper with tiny birds on it and a quilt folded at the foot of the bed. A vase with dried flowers stood on the windowsill. Outside, the trees swayed gently, rustling like conversation. They didn't speak much as they explored. The house didn't ask them to. It invited them to listen instead. There were little signs everywhere, small dents in the doorframe, a forgotten mug in the cabinet, a handwritten note stuck inside a recipe book. These weren't messes, they were fingerprints. Jamie felt her chest tighten in a good way. Back downstairs, Carol waited in the dining room, hands gently clasped. "It's okay to feel something here," she said. "Most houses don't ask for that. This one does." She led them to a small sunroom at the back. The owners lived here for over 30 years, raised 2 kids, held on to it even when they moved out. Jamie turned to her. "So, why now?" Carol glanced out the window before replying. "They're retiring, moving across the country. They didn't want to list it until they felt someone might actually see it for what it was. Not a project, a place, a home with layers." She paused. They left almost everything just as it was. Alex and Jamie sat in the sunroom for a moment, letting the light soak through the tall windows. The garden beyond was a mix of weeds and wonder-raised beds, a bird bath, and a rusty swing set half-hidden in ivy. "I could see this as home," Jamie whispered. "Not just for us, but as part of something." Carol gave them the keys to wander alone. "I'll be out front. There's no rush." They explored again, slower this time. Jamie opened drawers. Alex flipped through an old calendar still hanging in the pantry. It was from 2015. Notes were scribbled on some dates. One read, "Jay's last day of school." Another, "Fix garden tap." They ended up in a small room near the back of the house. It had once been an office, dusty but tidy. A low cabinet sat under the window. Jamie opened it and found an old tin box with rubber bands wrapped around it. She paused. "Should we?" Alex nodded. "If we weren't meant to, it wouldn't be here." Inside were envelopes, each labeled in different handwriting, letters, birthday cards, a few small photographs. One was a picture of a young woman holding a bouquet, smiling so hard her eyes disappeared. The back read, "She said yes, April 2002. Another showed a golden retriever on a couch, tongue out, paws crossed like royalty. They didn't read everything, just held them for a while. The paper felt soft with time. Jamie gently slid the contents back in. She left a sticky note beside the box before closing the cabinet again. It read, "We felt it. Thank you for sharing this space." Then she closed the door quietly behind her. Carol met them on the porch as they stepped out into the early evening air. "Did it speak to you?" she asked, but not like a salesperson. "More like someone passing along a story." Alex nodded. "It doesn't feel like a house for sale. It feels like a chapter we've been invited to write." Carol smiled. In the car, they didn't say much, but the kind of not much that means everything. They knew. It wasn't just the right house, it was the right story. The next morning, Jamie called Carol. "We'd like to write a letter to the owners," she said. "Before we even talk price, we want them to know what we felt." A week later, they got a reply. A letter from the owners arrived in the mail. It read, "Dear future keepers of this home, thank you for seeing it, for really seeing it. This house raised our children, held our laughter, and absorbed every version of us we've ever been. We weren't sure anyone would understand that. But we felt your letter, and we know it's ready to be loved again." With warmth, Mark and Emily, Alex read it aloud in their apartment, and Jamie cried. Not out of sadness, but out of recognition. Something had clicked into place, something that hadn't fit in all the other viewings, no matter how shiny the kitchens or fresh the paint. This wasn't about a house. It was about history meeting possibility. They moved in quietly, without ceremony. No major renovations, just gentle care. They kept the old books. They kept the swing. Jamie planted lavender in the front garden. Alex cleaned the gutters, humming to himself like someone who belonged. On the first warm afternoon, they sat in the sunroom and listened to the house exhale. It had been waiting, and now it wasn't anymore.